around 750 pounds. But looks like we're not going to be able to spot that rhino all too well here. That's all right. No worries, no worries. We got lots more to see here on the reserve. Up ahead, our friends, the saddle-billed storks, kind of hanging around each other over there on the left. These birds are actually very, very tall. They stand about 5 feet when they're fully grown. And they, of course, get their names from the bright yellow saddle-like shape that appears along the top of their bills. Pretty good to see them. Like I said, lots more to see as we head on out of the Little Ituri and into the Safi River. Our next location of the day. My friends on the right, you're going to be spotting the first half of the Safi, while my friends on the left, you're going to be spotting the second half. If you do plan on taking any of those photos or videos, feel free to go ahead and pass them along to the left and right. So we don't want to be standing up out here, so it does get a little bit bumpy. But here we go. We're going to keep our eyes peeled above the water, below the water, anything around. Kind of like our friends, the pink-backed pelicans here, you can see. They, of course, get their names from the coloration along their backs, but it is not too easy to see all the time. They actually go ahead and show them off the most during mating season. Of course, they want to be able to show off in order to attract a mate. Other times, though, they're going to be just hanging around, not really doing too much, keeping them covered. That's when it's least the brightest. If you did notice back there, there was a couple of vultures. Vultures are actually really good signs of Nile hippos. Usually they're not too far away from them. There's actually one out of the water, actually 2 out of the water, coming up here on the left. Look at that. Nile hippos weigh around 5,000 pounds, and that way actually brings them down to the bottom of lakes and rivers that they end up crossing. It's extremely safe for them. They can hold their breaths for up to 8 minutes at a time. The majority of their day is well spent underwater. Oh, guys, baby hippo, let me turn on especially not around Greta. We don't want to scare her. If Greta gets scared, her mom does not like that. And that is not a good ending for anybody. But here we go. Coming up here on the left, our friends, the Nile crocodiles. Nile crocodiles weigh around 500 pounds and reach lengths up to 16 feet long. You can see our research group up there taking care of business, watching over them right now. The Nile crocodiles are recognized as the largest crocodilian species in Africa. Definitely a good time to spot them on our journeys here in Harambe, but that does not mean we don't have to play it safe. Despite us having such an amazing relationship with them, playing it safe is always going to have to happen. No matter where our journeys bring us, we're always going to be coming across something dangerous. Don't want to get hurt out there, as getting hurt can ruin an entire experience for you guys, and we don't want that happening. So establishing a couple of safety rules before you head on out to wherever you may be taking your next journey, as well as doing a little bit of research on these animals, is going to go a really long way. But folks, speaking of our journeys ahead, we're coming up ahead here towards the savannah, and animals in the savannah people are a little bit more familiar with. These are the animals you kind of think of off the top of your head when you first think of this place. This is home to giraffes, zebras, elephants, wildebeests, a whole bunch of different animals. We're going to see what we can come across for ourselves today. Now, if we don't see too much on one half, don't worry. More than likely, we're going to see them on the other. I can actually spot a whole bunch of our other animal friends further up ahead, way out over there on the right. A couple of those Maasai giraffes, as well as a couple of Ankoli cattle out there. We're going to get on over there in just a little bit. Pretty close to us here, we're going to be spotting some of our friends, the Hartman Mountain zebras. They're grabbing a bite to eat right now. Hartman Mountain zebras actually have a fantastic way of controlling and regulating their body temperature. They have what we call a dewlap, a little bit of a funny word there, but dewlaps are located along their necks. And with a simple shake of the head, they can easily disperse excess body heat, but they want to keep warm. Well, of course, go ahead and cover that on up. Usually lay down into something, making sure they're keeping warm themselves, concealing that body temperature. Definitely a great opportunity for them, especially on really hot days too. Easy way to cool down. A couple more of them up ahead here we're going to be able to spot. We're actually spotting a bunch of the brindled wildebeests here up ahead. A couple more of those Hartman Mountain zebras like I mentioned. as well as some sable antelope. Now the sable antelope are the ones way over there on the left. They get their names from this, they actually get that for the simple fact that they want to use that as deterrence. Actually allows them to go ahead and protect themselves a little bit better. Whenever animals come up to hunt them, like lions and cheetahs, they usually are able to poke and prod them off of their backs using their super duper long horns. They also use them as back scratchers, a very convenient way to do that. Not too bad of a sight here. Those brindled wildebeest all hanging around in a group. They actually travel in extremely large groups, up to 1.5 million at a time. There's a lot of room out there in the savannah, not only convenient for their given size, but because of how much they actually migrate. They migrate about 500 to 1,000 miles a year. This very tiny antelope you're going to probably see here on the left, one of the springboks on the reserve. Springbok are definitely small because they are so tiny. They have to heavily rely on their agility, allowing them to go ahead and get on out of some pretty sticky situations. But they built up so much speed, they actually are able to get a spot amongst the top 10 fastest land mammals in the world. Here we go, a great view here. One of the Ankole cattle, like I mentioned. Ankole cattle are the only domesticated animals on the reserve. Thanks to the Watusi tribe, they were the first to domesticate them. Really have them to thank for Ankole cattle being such well-behaved animals. A couple more over there on the left as well, some more of those Springbok and wildebeests. Nice cool breeze to numb your face too. Not too bad. Here we go, we're gonna get a good sight. Some more of these Ankole cattle. Now Ankole cattle use their horns to control and regulate their body temperatures. Kind of works similar to the dewlap of the Hartman Mountain zebras. Their blood vessels actually flow through those horns. Thanks to a honeycomb pattern that flows through those horns, they actually are allowing their blood vessels to flow on through. And like very similar, like I said, to the Hartman Mountain zebras, they're able to go ahead and disperse excess body heat. Now, folks, make sure we got the little ones sitting on down there. We go. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Here we go. We're going to be able to see these Maasai giraffe way better now. There are one of two types of giraffe out there in Africa, the other being reticulated. Reticulated giraffes and Maasai giraffes only have one difference. It's actually their patterns. As you can see, their patterns are really rugged around the edges on Maasai giraffes. While reticulated giraffes have much more firm edges on their patterns, but nonetheless, still the tallest animals in the world, reaching heights of about 16 to 20 feet tall. Not too bad of a view here so far in the savannah. We've got lots more to see as we're spending a majority of our time here in the savannah. Let's get moving on ahead. It is super cool on out. Pretty chilly, of course, for us, but some of these animals, it's a great change of pace. Allows them to keep a little bit of a mind that it does get cold out here. Don't want them being too uncomfortable, of course. Here we go. Let's see what's hanging around over here on this half of the reserve. Ooh, actually way out over there on the right. One of the African elephants on the reserve, just kind of hanging on out. There's actually two of them. You can see one a little bit further on back there. Nice. Elephants in general are incredibly smart animals. They've got a fantastic memory. Sometimes they can even remember faces. They also have a really good sense of humor. Sometimes it feels like they kind of understand what we're joking about. Hopefully I can get a little bit of a better view here. Going nice and slow around this part. There we go. Not the most flattering view, but a view nonetheless. Then we can actually head on out to a second location we call the family area. That's usually where a lot of the herds of elephants tend to hang around. So we'll head on over there ourselves, test our luck, and see if we can't see a family or two. But it thanks to our researchers that we do find out so much about elephants, not only because they're here on the reserve, but of course we have to take our time and efforts out to Africa ourselves. It's going to be a very big responsibility taking care of them here on the reserve. So we had to make sure all of our information was 100% accurate. And pretty early on in our discoveries, we actually discovered some pretty weird stuff. We weren't necessarily looking for this kind of thing, but instead we accidentally found out that elephants are afraid of bees. Usually wherever they hear bees, they choose a whole different direction to go in. And that was really useful information, not necessarily for us, but for our friends out in Kenya. Those farmers had a little bit of a problem where elephants would show up on their crop fields, eat all of their food, and leave a big old mess behind. But these elephants are doing it because they're hungry. They need to eat lots and lots of food in order to keep up with a healthy diet. And while that's okay, we want them to eat lots and lots of food. We don't want them, however, to eat into the crops and reserves that these farmers are growing. Of course, it's their responsibility to feed thousands of other people out there. But utilizing the knowledge of the bees, these farmers came up with the idea of building what we call beehive fences. These are wooden boxes that pretty much work like amplifiers that these bees live in. They make a whole bunch of noise. They plant them all along their crops. And it actually really works out. There's an awesome resolve to this problem that allows not only the elephants to live peacefully out there, but as well as these farmers. Of course, very obvious thing there. They're able to protect their crops a little bit better. But not only does it affect those two groups, it actually affects a third one out there. Our nonprofit organizations that are located out there in Africa, monitoring the lives of elephants and rhinos. If you don't know what's happening out in Africa, unfortunately, big game hunting and poaching are really frowned upon practices that are being carried out and have been being carried out for so long now. We're trying our very best to protect as much wildlife as possible, and that starts with elephants and rhinos, as they play a huge part in the circle of life. All these animals rely on one another, folks, so not only do these animals rely on it, but we do too. We are also a part of the circle of life, so we gotta do our very best. Watch out for our animal friends, kind of have their backs, as it's going to be in our best interest for those that are going to be here in the future. Got a good view there, a couple of the herds. Coming up here is Flamingo Island, home to the greater flamingos. Greater flamingos have the lightest shade of pink of all of their species, and this is thanks to their diets. Their diets actually consist of brine shrimp and other water creatures that are really high in keratin. That's what's turning their feathers and skin pink. As you can see, a couple of them aren't pink just yet. That is because they're still very, very young. About 6 or 7 months ago, they were tiny little fur balls running around the legs of their families. It was a lot of fun to see. They were super, super cute. But they grew up a little too fast, is what it seems. They usually get as tall as their parents do before they grow those pretty pink colors on it, which is, of course, the only thing they have left before they're full-fledged and all grown up. Gonna make a little bit more room for our friends behind us. Moving on forward here to this half of the savannah. Right off the bat, we're able to notice one of the mud willows on the reserve. That big body of mud right there. Pretty common for rhinos to be near. Jumbo, guys, make sure we got the little ones sitting, especially when they're super close to the edge right there. But way over there on the right, they're not too far away. One of the white rhinos on the reserve kind of hanging on out. Seems like they're taking a nap. We can actually head on over to that side just a little bit. Rhinos love their mud willows, folks, especially on really, really hot days, but they will still use it on cold days if they need to protect their skin. As you can see, this big old body of mud allows rhinos to roll around in it and use that mud like a natural sunscreen. They can protect their skin from the sun, and on hot days keep themselves really, really cool. Like I said, that one was way out over there, so we can head on over ourselves. Let's see anything around here. Not really seeing much right now, which is okay. Like I said, we can head on over to that next little area. Oh, actually, before we do, over on the left, kind of hanging out in the hay right there, one of the cheetahs on the reserve. Cheetahs are personally my favorite animals. They're the fastest land mammals in the world, reaching speeds up to 60 miles an hour in just 3 seconds. But they are hanging on out, not doing too bad themselves. We'll go ahead and move on forward here to some Kobe rocks up ahead. As you can see, Kobe rocks are super duper tall. And if I had to compare Kobe rocks to anything in the world, I'd probably have to compare it to Pride Rock. And if you know anything about Pride Rock, we know Simba lives out there. And if we know who Simba is, we know he's a lion. So we're gonna see if we can't spot any lions in the area. Now, the reason lions absolutely love Kobe rocks is simply because it gives them a good height advantage over the land that they're living on. They're going to be able to spot things for miles on end. Oh, there we go. One of the female lions way over there. Actually, two of them. And there are those rhinos way over there on the right. Now those are white rhinos, more formally known as Vite. In Afrikaans, Vite means wide, and that's in reference to their mouths. Their mouths are really square and broad, or in this case, really, really wide. And it's physical features like that we want to keep track of, since there's 5 different types of species of rhino out there. And here we go, we get a great view of them. Awesome view. They're just relaxing right now. They usually don't do too much during the daytime. They spend about 20 hours a day sleeping and resting, keeping their energy up, as they're the largest carnivores in Africa. It is super, super important they do that, as they need to carry out their daily tasks effectively. But because they do spend so much time sleeping and resting, they spend all that time awake up during the night, making them nocturnal animals. But we'll leave them be a little bit here. Let's see. Actually, up ahead, I can see a couple of our friends, the ostriches. We're also going to get another good view here. Our friends, those white rhinos, way over there, kind of hanging around those bushes. But those ostriches there on the left, actually seems to be just one of them. They're not too far away from their eggs. But there we go. Great view here. We're going nice and slow before we swing on over to see these ostriches. Ostriches are, of course, the largest birds in the world. As you can see, they're huge. If they were right next to the truck, you would actually be face to face with them. Just a little bit of a scope, folks. We are 8 feet off of the ground. It is definitely really high up, but to them, it's all that normal. As you can see, one of them seemed to have laid an egg right in front of her. We'll leave them be just to leave some time there with the young one. I'm just kidding. We'll go ahead on out to our last location of the day. Now, today is very, very cold for these animals, so we're playing a little bit of roulette, kind of trying our best to see if we can spot them. Strike of luck that they are out here. This here is Magadi Glen. And this is home to some very familiar animals if you've been out in the parks before, more specifically over at Rafiki's Planet Watch in the affection section. This is actually home to the Nigerian dwarf goat. But the only problem with this is that they hate 2 things. 1, they don't like the rain, and 2, they absolutely despise the cold. So it seems like they're not out right now. Maybe in the back, maybe. No, it seems like they're not out, but that's okay. Hopefully when it starts to warm on up and you folks end up joining us again, you'll be able to see them. But they're about 2 feet tall, so they didn't need a ton of room. This is a fantastic spot for them, as the warden comes in and out of here all day long anyways to actually take care of them. But as it is a little bit too cold, they're probably on another part of the reserve, keeping themselves warm. Want to make sure we're appealing to their needs. But we are heading through the final gates of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve, and we're heading on back towards the village. We stopped at a really cool animal today. Hopefully it's your favorite one. If not, you can definitely join us again for another safari. It does not have to be right after this one. You can go on out to the rest of the park and come on back. But make sure it is before 5 o'clock, because that's when our last truck will depart from the village and close on down for the night. We influence you to join us again, as there's no 2 of the same safaris. But I do know there's lots more to do out there that you folks want to join our friends around the world with. Lots of attractions to get on, food to try, information to take in about all these amazing animals across the globe. I really hope you guys had a good time with me out, guys. I did have a good time seeing lots of those animals with you folks, teaching you all about them. But I really do also hope you're pulling away with the big picture here. As awesome as it is seeing them on the reserve, giving them a home, protecting them, learning more about them, taking care of them at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, they do need homes to begin with back out in the wild, where they can contribute to the circle of life. Like I mentioned earlier, it is a very precious thing that all these animals and us need to be a part of in order for it to be the circle of life. Unfortunately, thousands of animals a year end up losing their homes due to things that we control. As a human race, we put so many factors into how planet Earth grows, as it's a living, breathing thing, and every decision we make affects the outcome of it all. It is super, super important. We're doing our very, very best to clean up after ourselves, protect planet Earth, not only for the animals and us here and now, but for our friends and family in the future. We gotta do our very best to protect the planet and give them the freshest air to breathe in, as well as hopefully one day keeping the oceans as clean as they've ever been. But we're gonna get you back out to the parks. Instead of saying goodbye, we actually have a Swahili phrase that means to go well. We say Kwaherini here in Harambe. So Kwaherini, go well, go wild. My friends on the right, watch your hands, arms, feet, and legs. Those doors are sliding open. Again, my name is Chris Asante Sana. Thank you so much for joining us, y'all. We're fantastic. Have a very rest of your time out there. Hope to see you again.